Okay, so now, so we are discussing about this Kalama Sutta, and again, the connecting point here is just like in Dajagga Sutta, the yardstick to decide whether this particular teaching is good or bad, whether it is suitable or not suitable, whether it is beneficial or not beneficial. So to decide, to take a decision on this, you should have some yardstick. You should have some base. And what is that base? What is that yardstick on which you can decide this is suitable for my happiness, for my true happiness, for my progress? So that we will see in this Kalama Sutta. So because of this beautiful, wonderful yardstick given by Buddha to decide, so which is, say, suitable teaching, whose teaching is suitable for me, and whose teaching I should accept, whose teaching I should reject. You require some yardstick, some understanding, some discretions, so some wisdom. And what is that wisdom Buddha is trying to impart? That we will see in this sutra, that is this Kalama Sutra. Okay, so it will take some 10 minutes, and then you can ask questions. I have heard that on one occasion, the Blessed One, on a wandering tour among the Kosalans with a large community of monks, arrived at Kesaputta, a town of the Kalamas. It is somewhere near UP and Bihar border. I to remember when we are going for the pilgrimage, there is a big circuit of Buddhist holy places in UP and Bihar. Of course, the birthplace is in Nepal, Lumbini. So except this Lumbini, the birthplace, all other important Buddhist sites and Buddhist holy places, pilgrimage sites are in UP and Bihar. When we were traveling, we visited this place. There is one huge stupa also, one very big stupa, where Buddha delivered this discourse, this Kalama Sutta, to the local people there, the Kalamas. Kalamas were the local people in that town, Kesaputta. They were quite brilliant, they're quite intelligent, but still they were confused. Why they were confused and how Buddha could resolve their confusion, could help them to come out of that confusion, that we will see in this Kesaputta Sutta. Or it is also called Kalama Sutta. Kesaputta is the name of the town. Kalamas are the people who are residing in that town. The Kalamas of Kesaputta heard it, said among themselves, after they came to know about Buddha's visit, they discussed among themselves. Gautama, the monk, the contemplative, the son of the Sakyans, having gone forth from the Sakyan clan, has arrived at Kesaputta, a great king, the son of one great empire, great province, this Sakyan province. He has become a monk now. Now he has arrived to our city with his retinue, with his group of monks. And of that master Gautama, this fine reputation has spread. He has a very good reputation of a great master, a great enlightened person. What is the reputation? He is indeed a blessed one, worthy and rightly self-awakened, consummate in knowledge and conduct, well gone, a knower of the cosmos, an unexcelled trainer of those persons ready to be tamed. So like this, that every day we chant, no? Arhang Samma Sambuddho, Vijacharana Sampanno, Sugato, Lokavidu, who can see the entire cosmos, that is Lokavidu, Sattadeva Manussanang, Buddho, Bhagava. So in that way, all these 9 qualities, they remembered, they contemplated. He has made known, having realized it through direct knowledge, this world with its devas, maras and brahmas, its generations with their contemplatives and brahmans, the rulers and common people, has explained the Dhamma admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end, has expounded the holy life, both in its particulars and in its essence, entirely perfect, surpassingly pure. It is good to see such a worthy one. They contemplated the qualities of Buddha. He is such a, say, great monk, great enlightened person. He has all these 9 qualities. He can teach the divine beings and the human beings alike. He explains the Dhamma in an admirable way. His Dhamma is good in the beginning, good and appreciable and admirable in the beginning. It is good in the middle, and it is admirable in the middle, and it is good and admirable in the end also. Such a profound Dhamma, such pure Dhamma he expounds. So we will go and meet him. It is worthy, it is best, it is good to see such a worthy one, such an admirable one. In that way they decided. And then what happened? So the Kalamas of Kesaputta went to the Blessed One. On arrival, some of them bowed down to him and sat to one side. These people, they were a little proud also, some of them. Some of them, of course, very humble also. So those who are quite humble and quite good, they bowed down to Buddha and they sat to one side. Some of them exchanged courteous greetings with him, and after an exchange of friendly greetings and courtesies, sat to one side. Some people simply exchanged the greetings instead of bowing down. They exchanged the greetings and they sat one side. Some of them sat to one side, having saluted him with their hands palm to palm over their hearts. Just joining their hands palm to palm over their hearts. So they just wished Buddha with namaste, with that joining the hands, Anjali. Then they sat to one side. Some of them sat to one side, having announced their name and clan. That was one tradition in Buddha's time. So when you meet some new person, so if they think that they are say they're equals, then they don't even go for this Anjali or Namaskara or Namaste. They simply tell their name and their clan name. Their name and clan name they simply tell, and they sit silently to one side of Buddha. So in that way, different people, depending upon their faith, their respect, they say exchange the greetings with Buddha and they sat to one side of Buddha. All these Kalamas of this Kesaputta town. As they sat there, the Kalamas of Kesaputta said to the Blessed One, Lord, there are some Brahmins and contemplatives who come to Kesaputta. They expound and glorify their own doctrines, but as for the doctrines of others, they deprecate them, revile them, show contempt for them, and disparage them. And then other Brahmins and contemplatives come to Kesaputta. They expound and glorify their own doctrines, but as for the doctrines of others, they deprecate them, revile them, show contempt for them, and disparage them. They leave us absolutely uncertain and in doubt. Which of these venerable Brahmins and contemplatives are speaking the truth, and which ones are lying? So this is one very, very important question that everybody will go through, not just spiritual people. All human beings, they get confused because of so many, say, kinds of views, kinds of solutions for different problems in any field. In any worldly field, or in the law, in the legalities, there are different versions. In medicines, there are different versions. In love and relations, there are different versions. In taking care of the children, there are different versions. In care, there are different versions. In spirituality also, in meditation also, in realizing the truth also, there are different versions. Some people will come, some masters will come, and they teach their versions, and they so confidently they teach, they disparage others, they boast their teaching, their ideas, their techniques. And some other people, they again come, some other group will come, and again they will talk so much about their ideas, and they disparage and they condemn others. So now we are under complete uncertainty. We are in doubt. Whom to believe? Who is speaking truth? Who is speaking untruth? So why don't you clarify this problem, our problem? In that way, they requested Buddha. So what is the answer? This is a beautiful answer given by Buddha. Buddha says, Of course, you are uncertain, Kalamas. Of course, you are in doubt. That's absolutely true. When different people give the different versions of the way to truth, the way to liberation, the way to happiness, then definitely you will be in doubt. There is no doubt that you are in doubt. So in that way, Buddha says, and when there are reasons for doubt, uncertainty is born. Yes, when there is doubt, then uncertainty is it will born. So in this case, Kalamas, don't go by reports, don't go by legends, don't go by traditions, don't go by scriptures, don't go by logical conjecture, by simply logic. Oh, according to my intelligence, my logic, this seems to be right, this seems to be not right. Don't depend on your logical mind also so much. Don't go by inference. Don't conclude based on your logic. You infer something. Because of that logical inference, this is right, this is wrong. That is also not right way. Don't go by analogies, by examples, by similes. Many people are so smart in giving beautiful analogies, beautiful similes, beautiful examples. Don't go by them also. By agreement through pondering views. Some people are very, very powerful, even though they are having wrong views. They ponder their wrong views in such a brilliant way that anybody should accept their wrong view as a right view. So don't go by that also. By probability, probably this is more suitable. This is more than 50% probability. This is 75% probability. This may be correct. Don't go by probability also. Or by the thought, the contemplative is our teacher, or he is our teacher, our family teacher, our tradition teacher. So we are born in this tradition, in this so under the umbrella of this master or this group or this sect. So that's why we should follow all this orthodoxy, all this kind of blindly attaching to some kind of group, some kind of sect. Based on that, whatever they say is ultimate truth, that is the right way to live, that is the right way to get true happiness. That is also not good. When you know for yourselves, when you realize yourselves, these qualities are unskillful, these qualities are blameworthy, these qualities are criticized by the wise, these qualities, when adopted and carried out, lead to harm and to suffering, then you should abandon them. So your unnecessary, some logical mind is not required. Your logic, your reasoning, depending upon your welfare. These things are for my welfare. These things are unskillful. These things are unskillful means like they will not lead to my welfare. In that way, you should analyze those teachings. Don't analyze based on some kind of supernatural, imagination, some kind of, overthinking. That's like many people nowadays, even in religion and also in science, they have this kind of very vague analysis, which is not at all helpful for my welfare, my freedom, my purification. If these things are, are not for my purification and my welfare, then you can abandon them. It will lead to my harm and suffering. If you are sure that these ideas, these thoughts, these teachings will lead to my harm and suffering, you should abandon them. Then how to decide what is welfare for me, what is true happiness, what is true freedom? Then how to decide? Again, Buddha gives very simple explanation for this biggest problem that the mankind is going through from generations. Buddha gives one simple solution for this problem. What Buddha says, what do you think, Kalamas, when greed arises in a person, does it arise for welfare or for harm? Buddha gives, so whatever is truly of, good for me, which is for my welfare, that only you should accept. In that way, Buddha gives the first tip, first suggestion. And the second thing Buddha is giving, second tip, but that Buddha is helping us is, authoritatively telling how to decide what is good for me, what is that leads to my welfare. For that, Buddha is analyzing. Anything, when greed arises in a person, any thought, because of greed, it arises in a person, do you think it is for the welfare or for harm? So just like he teaching a small kid, he is teaching these so-called wise people of Kesaputta, these Kalamas, and it is so beautiful, so perfect, so authoritative. If all of you understand this, then you will get absolute clarity of what to accept, what to reject. Here Buddha is saying, so what is the true welfare? Any thoughts or any ideas, if you get out of greed, whether it is for your welfare or for harm, then they reply, it is for our harm, Lord. So any ideas or any techniques which are based in greed, such kind of ideas or thoughts, if they arise in the mind, if that kind of views, if some people will teach, then definitely the greed-rooted ideas, the greed-rooted views, the greed-rooted teachings, they definitely lead to our harm. They harm us. That we are sure. In that way they explain. And then Buddha continues, and this greedy person, overcome by greed, his mind possessed by greed, kills living beings. Out of greed, many of us indulge in violence. Greed for taste, greed for power, greed for money. For these things only people kill. So possessed by this greed, if you kill living beings, take what is not given, goes after another person's wife, tells lies, and induces others to do likewise, all of which is for long-term harm and suffering. These 5 precepts that we talk about, not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to indulge in sexual misconduct, and of course not to take intoxicants. These things, they come out of greed. And if you indulge in these things, and if you induce others with your greed, you induce greed in others also, and make them to say take up this kind of unwholesome actions like killing, stealing, then it is definitely, it will lead to your harm. So the root is greed. So there's greed rooted this kind of harmful actions. It will definitely lead to your suffering. So in that way, if anybody teaches like this, kill because you have to survive, or you have to take care of your body. So many reasons people say for the sake of to induce them this violence and this killing mind. They simply motivate people to kill. That you might have seen, like say even in everywhere in all countries, the leaders, they motivate, they inspire people to kill with their own ideas, or either with greed, inducing greed in them, they motivate. Like say in some sects, they say, so if you kill your enemies, either you will get the empire, you will become a king, you will become a you can own one entire province, or if you die also, never mind, you will go to heaven. There you will get say young women, or you will get drinks, wonderful drinks. So you'll go to heaven and you'll get all the sensual pleasure. So it is like inducing greed. This kind of greed inducing teachings, greed inducing actions, greed based actions, if somebody teaches you, then you should think that it is for my harm. That is absolutely say on wrong teaching. There is no need for me to accept that wrong teaching. That should be your discretion. That should be your wisdom. Because you only know a greed-based action always leads to harm, always leads to suffering. In that way, Buddha is actually, through this questioning only, he is making them very clear about what to do and what not to do, what teaching to accept and what teaching not to accept. That way, Buddha is making the things very clear in this way of questioning answers and also asking the questions to this audience only, so that they can think and they can realize what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. So in that way, Buddha explains this kind of greed-based actions lead to one's harm and suffering, so one should avoid these things. Then they agreed, the Kalamas, they said, yes, Lord. In that way they replied, now what do you think, Kalamas? when aversion arises in a person, does it arise for welfare or for harm? You agreed that it is because of greed, and greed-based actions lead to my harm, so I should avoid any teaching that induces greed in me and induces some actions based on greed. I should avoid. That you realize, that you have understood. In the same way, the actions which are rooted in aversion, whether it leads to my welfare or for my harm, then they reply, it is for our harm only. Any actions that are rooted in aversion, aversion means like hatred, anger, enmity. So any actions rooted in enmity, that will lead to our harm only. Oh Lord, in that way they replied. And then Buddha gives explanation. And this aversive person, overcome by aversion, his mind possessed by aversion, kills living beings, takes what is not given, goes after another person's wife, tells lies, and induces others to do likewise, all of which is for long-term harm and suffering. These things, temporarily it may excite you for a few seconds. A thief also, out of that excitement, out of that greed or that kind, even the aversion gives you some kind of excitement. That temporarily it gives you some kind of excitement. That's why people get trapped into hatred, trapped into anger, trapped into greed, because it gives one, it's like one high, one intoxicant kind of thing. It will create some kind of high in the mind. It gives you some temporary, very temporary excitement, but in long term, it completely destroys you. It will harm you. So just like greed, the hatred also, aversion also is not for your welfare. It will harm you and it will lead to long-term suffering. Then they agree, yes, Lord, in that way they reply. Then again Buddha asks the same way for the delusion. Delusion means like moha, like some ignorance, some kind of hazy mind. With that hazy mind or some that lazy mind or some deluded mind, if some person takes up some action, whether it is for one's welfare or one's harm, then the reply it is for his own harm. With laziness, with dullness, with ambiguity, one should not take up any action. If they take up such kind of ambiguous actions with lazy or dull mind or deluded mind, it will lead to their harm and suffering only. So with that deluded mind, if a person kills living beings, takes what is not given, goes after another person's wife, tells lies and induces others to do likewise, all of which is for long-term harm and suffering. This kind of deluded actions means like the actions of killing others or taking what is not given, all these 5 precepts that you take. So again, these 5 precepts people break, are involved in breaking these 5 precepts. It is because of either greed, hatred or delusion. So with these things, anything you do that leads to long-term harm and suffering, they agreed, yes, it is so, Lord. So then Buddha asks, what do you think, Kalamas? Are these qualities skillful or unskillful? This kind of greed-rooted or hatred-rooted or delusion-rooted actions, whether they are skillful, kusala or akusala, whether they are skillful actions or unskillful actions, whether they are meritorious actions or demeritorious or non-meritorious actions, they say they are unskillful, they are not meritorious. Then whether they are blameworthy or blameless, whether people blame such kind of actions or whether it is blameless, or you yourself, whether you can blame it or it is blameworthy or blameless. In that way Buddha asks, then they reply, it is blameworthy, Lord. It is very blameworthy. Everybody will blame such kind of actions rooted in greed, hatred and delusion. Criticized by the wise or prized by the wise. If you indulge in this kind of actions rooted in greed, delusion and hatred, whether the wise people criticize this or they prize this kind of actions, then they reply, it is criticized by the wise, Lord. Nobody, no wise person will appreciate this kind of actions rooted in greed, hatred and delusion. When adopted and carried out, do they lead to harm and to suffering or not? Then they reply, when adopted and carried out, they lead to harm and to suffering. That is how it appears to us. In that way they reply, it will definitely lead to our harm and suffering. In that way we can feel it, we can intuitively feel it. It will definitely lead to our harm and suffering. So as I said, Kalamas, don't go by reports. So such reports getting from different people, this is good, this sect is good, this master is teaching this. by legends, by great legends repeatedly they teach, they become big people, big great gurus, or great say masters. So don't go by that kind of legendary teachings also. By traditions, oh, this is our tradition, this is a great tradition, this is a great school of thought, so many people follow this, millions of people follow this, so I too should follow. I have seen some people, so they go like sheep, thousands and thousands of people go to some master who is imparting some nonsense or some kind of blind beliefs, and they simply, so why you are going, they say, then they reply, oh, so many people are going, so I am also going. So don't be carried out by this kind of this mass euphoria. So many people are going, I too should go. That is one mass mentality that is very much seen among the people. But now the world is becoming quite smart, quite intelligent. Don't be carried out by this kind of mass euphoria. If so many people are going, it should be good. No, that is not the right way to decide what is good and what is bad. Or by scriptures, even so many people, oh, it is our scriptures. In our scriptures, whatever is mentioned, we should do that. That kind of stupid people you might have seen. So many laws, it is in our scriptures. They worship the scriptures. They don't use their either some common sense also they don't use. It is there in the scripture, it is mentioned, go and kill that fellow. Okay, I go and kill because I have a lot of belief in my scripture. Such kind of nonsense is also going on in the world, and Buddha says very with your own petty mind, petty logical mind, don't logically conclude something and decide this is good, this is bad. And also by inference, yeah, by this logical inference also don't decide this is good, this is bad. By analogies, as I was telling you, by examples, by similes, many people try to influence by giving so many analogies, so many examples, very wonderful analogies, wonderful similes. Don't get carried away by such kind of analogies and similes. By agreement through pondering views, by probability or by the thought, this contemplative is our teacher. All these things you should have. He is our family teacher. He is our say our grandparents, our parents, our ancestors. They followed this tradition, this group. In that way, any kind of say this kind of very irrational beliefs, based on these irrational beliefs, don't accept anybody's views or anybody's teachings. What is the yardstick here? What is the yardstick for your acceptance of something is right, something is wrong? So yardstick is whether these actions, these teachings will help me to come out of my own greed, my own hatred, my own delusion, and it will help me to take up actions rooted in non-greed, actions rooted in non-hatred, actions rooted in non-delusion. In such kind of actions, these things will help me, these things will motivate me to take up such actions, such thinking, such speech. That should be your yardstick. If that kind of teachings, if you hear, accept them, and that will lead to your long-term welfare. If any other thing, based on any other belief systems, if you accept, and it will lead to your, it will lead to the accumulation of greed, multiplication of your hatred, or your delusion, then such kind of actions, such kind of teachings you should reject. So in that way, Buddha gives the clarification for the statement that one should be free from the greed, hatred, and delusion. One should work on this, one's own mind. See, the greed, hatred, and delusion is in one's own mind. People teach so many things about handling the world. Do this puja, that puja, go to this temple, go to this, say, and even trees and rivers, so many things people start worshipping. But whatever you do, if whether these things will lead to non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, that you should always check. Or if these things lead to my greed, hatred, and delusion. If they lead to the increase in the greed, hatred, and delusion. You should reject it as a poison. If it leads to non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, you should accept it as a medicine. So that is what is Buddha's suggestion here. What do you think, Kalamas, when lack of greed arises in a person, does it arise for welfare or harm? When lack of aversion arises, lack of hatred arises, whether it is for one's welfare or for harm? When lack of delusion arises in person, does it arise for welfare or harm? Then they say it is for our welfare only. Any thoughts, any ideas, any actions rooted in, say, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. That means lack of hatred, lack of greed, lack of delusion. That will be for our long-term welfare and happiness. In that way they reply. And again, Buddha asks whether it is skillful, whether it is unskillful or blameworthy or blameless, whether they are prized by the wise or not prized by the wise. They reply, it is skillful, it is blameless, it is prized by the wise. Such kind of actions rooted in non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, when they are adopted and carried out, they will lead to our long-term welfare. In that way they agree. Then Buddha says, so don't go by any other versions. This will let this be your yardstick to decide whether the teachings are acceptable or not acceptable. So in that way, of course, this is only half of the sutta. So next time, maybe we will continue another half. So I think this is the core summary of this Kalama Sutta. And the next thing, some explanation, some continuation. Here, what is that you are going to learn is, say, it is not any other belief. The only belief is the greed, hatred, and delusion leads to my suffering, long-term suffering. Any thoughts, any views, any actions which will multiply my greed, hatred, and delusion, I should keep it away like a poison. And if these things, if these defilements, these cankers of the mind, greed, hatred, and delusion, if they are removed by this teaching, with this practice, then I should accept it. That is my yardstick. And of course, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, they absolutely, very authoritatively represent non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, techniques, meditations, practices, punya kriyas, parmis, all the things recommended by Buddha, each and every word of Buddha. There is this inner essence or inner say fervor or flavor of non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. So without any hesitation, you can accept Buddha and his teachings, that is Dhamma, and also the teachings of his Sangha very authoritatively you can accept, because those things will lead to your welfare, long-term welfare. They are blameless, they are prized by the wise people, they are skillful. So such kind of skillful actions, skillful views, skillful thoughts and speech, if you cultivate, then nobody will confuse you, nobody will create fear in you, nobody will create tension in you. No force on this earth can make you miserable, can lead you to suffering. They can't do that. So that is the assurance. So with that assurance, so we will conclude today's discourse. That is the Kalama Sutta or Kesaputta Sutta. And the Dajagga Sutta also, of course, it also talks about non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. And of course, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, they represent non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. That's it. That's what is actually Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The essence of Buddhism is that only. The state of Nibbana is also that only. The ways and means, if you learn how to free your mind from greed, hatred, and delusion, then you end up in Nibbana. Like in other versions, other religions, they talk about moksha and liberation by connecting this soul into Supreme Soul. They never talk about how to remove greed, how to remove ignorance, how to remove hatred. So many theistic religions or sects, or even the atheistic, it's another extreme. They are simply stuck with only bodily desires. They're never bothered about knowing the mind and knowing the greed, hatred, and delusion in the mind, how to free the mind from this greed, hatred, and delusion. Even these atheists also, they are another extreme. These are another extreme. Avoid these two extremes. Work on your own mind. Free the mind from this greed, hatred, and delusion. That is the way. That is the right teaching. That leads to the right happiness. So that is what is today's Kalama Sutta. Now, just for a few minutes, we will take up some questions and then we'll conclude. This is a wonderful sutra with a lot of precision, with a lot of accuracy. This is what is truth. This is what is path. This is what is the yardstick. That kind of absolute precision is there. Of course, each and every word of Buddha, that precision is there. But this sutra is so authoritative. Even the questions asked by the audience is also of that kind, and the answers given by Buddha is also of that kind. That's why this is the most say accurate discourse, which will summarize all the teachings of Buddha. All the teachings of Buddha are summarized in this sutra, that's Kalama Sutra. That's why it is so famous, so popular in the Western world. Okay, now we'll take up the questions. Upasak Ratnakhar. So the question is, Vandami Bhanteji, you have very nicely explained Kalama Sutta. Some feel that Kalamas were not followers of Buddha and discourse was basically meant for them. It is not in conformity with the Shraddha and complete surrender to Shraddha. It is not in conformity with the Shraddha and complete surrender to triple gems. Would be grateful for your kind guidance. So of course, many people who came under the guidance of Buddha, they were not like saying, initially nobody was Buddha's disciple, right? Slowly they started learning Buddha's teachings. So Kalamas also were, I told you, in the beginning of the sutta itself, they were completely confused. Some teachers, they visit this Kesaputta, they say, oh, this is the ocean like this. Present day also you can see so many masters, so many religions. Some groups will come, surrender to, say, the Father, he is in the heaven, and the son of the God, the Father, he is the way. You surrender to the Son, then he will take you to the Father. Whether you are bothered about greed, hatred, and delusion, they never teach. Rather, all these ideas will increase more greed in your mind. Oh, this person will take me towards the heaven. Out of greed only you follow him. And of course, in the same way, some people induce hatred and greed for the next word. You kill these people, those people, then you go to heaven, and there you get a lot of essential things. And of course, in Indian religions also, so many sects also, they induce this kind of greedy ideas or hateful ideas to motivate you to do this or to do that in the name of spirituality, in the name of religion. So such kind of ideas, they were there now also, they were there at the time of Buddha also, they are there now also. So Buddha, he gives the yardstick. Forget about all those things. You need not hate those teachings or you need not accept those teachings. Have this yardstick and don't depend on your scriptures, your say gurus or your family teachers or your logical mind. Unnecessary, some people have some unnecessary, critically they analyze some unnecessary things. They don't look into their own greed, they don't look into their own hatred, they don't look into their own delusion, and they don't analyze how to come out of this greed, hatred, and delusion. Some nonsense analytical say ideas they will have towards the world, towards right and wrong. The right and wrong depends on how free I am from greed, hatred, and delusion. That is the right. How corrupted I am with this greed, hatred, and delusion. That is wrong. So this is the yardstick. So this yardstick Buddha authoritatively explains. So these, of course, Kalamas also learn, they become the followers of Buddha, many of them, most of them, or all of them rather. That's how Buddha changed the wrong views of people, millions of people, with this simple logic, with this simple, very common sense. It's not even knowledge, it is a basic common sense. Yes, greed, hatred, and delusion, it will harm you. If you might have experienced a greedy thought again and again comes, the entire body, it starts becoming very hot and very, you feel as if you're suffering from fever. Strong attachment, strong greed, it will burn your body. Strong hatred also, it will create a lot of pain in the stomach or some kind of acidities. You can experience, if you are a little sensitive, the delusion also will make you too, that sloth on top or too dullness also will create some kind of rigidity in the body. It is very simple actually to understand the impact of greed, hatred, and delusion in the body and how it gives us suffering instantly actually. And if it accumulates, it leads to diseases. Ragadi roga, you might have heard of this statement. Lot of roga, lot of diseases are rooted in raga. Raga means like this greed. So in that way, the tensions, the stress, the diseases, they are rooted in our own defilements. The dvesha, gussa, is hatred, everybody knows. Delusion also everybody knows. Raga also, you can easily contemplate, you can easily realize, oh, these three things are the biggest enemies. How to fix them is the right path. If that understanding comes, that is good enough and that is great enough. So in that way, this, of course, many people learned. Not only even the divine beings, they heard this, and so many people, they learned and appreciated, and they started following this common sense or this kind of simple knowledge given by Buddha, and they took the path of the teachings of Buddha. They started following the teachings of Buddha. That way, Shraddha nobody will have. Any wise person, they will not have Shraddha blindly, whether towards Buddha or towards anybody. They will always have some doubt only. Doubt is good. That's what Buddha prizes in the beginning of this sutta. Yeah, whatever doubt you have is good. Unless in other, if you don't have faith, they kill you. You know, in some religions, if they insist you to have Shraddha towards somebody, and if you don't show Shraddha, they will brand you as a non-believer, and they may kill you also. They can go to that extent. But here Buddha is encouraging doubt. You should doubt. You should doubt. You should ask questions. Doubt only will help you to ask questions and clarify and to get clarification for your doubts. If you don't doubt, then you won't develop your mind. In that way, that's what is the speciality of Buddha's teaching. Ahipasiko, come and investigate, come and doubt and investigate. Don't blindly follow me. Don't blindly have some blind faith on me. Always Buddha encourages the people to use their own mind. That's why it's called Buddhism. Use your buddhi and develop your mind and get the true happiness. In that way, of course, these Kalamas also, they were wise, intelligent people. They were having this doubt. And after listening to Buddha, they completely understood and they became followers of Buddha. This happened with so many groups, so many ascetics, so many wise ascetics, not very wise ascetics, so many kings also, they were having a lot of doubt. They were not having Shraddha, faith in Buddha. So many billionaires, they were not having faith. So many ordinary people also, they were not having faith. But after listening, the simple logic, the simple common sense that Buddha taught, the correct way of how to become free from greed, hatred, and delusion, and how to get the true happiness, true peace of mind, and Nibbana. So this simple path Buddha, when started advocating, they developed faith in his teachings and they became liberated. Many of them, they became liberated also. The same thing happened with Kalamas also.
Thank you very much, Bhanteji, for a very nice guidance. Thank you so much.
And the next question is, excellent explanation, Vandami Bhanteji. Very nice explanation of Kalama Suttas. Thank you very much, Bhanteji, for such wonderful discourse on Bhanteji. Vandami Sadhu. Okay, that's it, no? Thank you for that. I'm very good. Thank you so grateful. Okay, I think deepest sense of gratitude to you, Bhanteji, for giving us wonderful Dhamma discourse. Excellent explanation, sadhu sadhu. Okay, that's it, I think. Any other question? In the chat box, I think only one question. And some of you have appreciated this Kalama Sutta and its explanation. And if last question, if you have one question, we'll take up one question and conclude.
Vandami Bhanteji.
Okay, Ma, you can ask.
Vandami Bhanteji. Bhanteji, what is delusion, Bhanteji? Delusion,
Delusion,
I
as
cannot
I was telling,
understand properly.
yeah, as I was telling you some time back, see, knowing wrong as right is one kind of delusion. Not knowing is also delusion. And the mind is so lazy, so dull, because of physical laziness, because of physical tiredness, or having some boredom in the mind, some kind of numbness, mental numbness, beclouded with some kind of, say, like some intoxicated people, or the people who have taken some drugs or intoxicants. You see that their minds are not sharp, or not, say, sensitive. Such kind of insensitivity, such kind of dumbness, dullness, bluntness of the mind, or not knowing this kind of absolute truths, and knowing the right as wrong, wrong as right. These four aspects, they come under the delusion. That way you can understand delusion.
Vandami Bhanteji. Thank you, Bhanteji.
Excellent explanation for a very confusing situation. Is there any text that we could follow or read regularly to follow up on our knowledge? So this
Vandami
in the
Bhanteji.
scripture. One second. In the scriptures, there is a question here. Somebody has asked some question, so it's very clear. But still, if there are some texts which we can follow or read regularly. Actually, all original teachings of Buddha, it will give you some clarity, but it was given to different kinds of people, or different temperaments or mentalities of the people. Maybe sometimes you may get confused. So many people, they have this complaint. So we get confused when we go through the scriptures. But still, you can give a trial to go through the original teachings of Buddha, through the original scriptures. But listening from some, say, authoritative masters, it gives more clarity. In the YouTube or in this kind of programs, or in YouTube also, many masters. Again, of course, it depends on the authoritativeness of the masters. So you can just see, you have to experiment, and you have to find out. There's so many masters, they give discourses, and also the original texts. You can Google and you can get. Then the next question is how to experience Astakalapa. It's a long process. That's what we do in all our level 1 to level 5 course. That is the way to experience Attakalapa or Astakalapa. Vandami Bhanteji, express deepest gratitude. Thank you. Okay, somebody was asking some question. Some Upasika, somebody was asking some question. Okay, so that is about today's discourse on Dhammapala Sutta and Kalama Sutta. So I think both these suttas, they give one correct message. And of course, correctly, if you interpret and analyze and expound these, then only you'll get the correct message. You'll get correct message from any sutta, but you have to correctly ponder over that. But pondering correctly is very important. And each and every word of Buddha will give you the correct message. Okay, so correctly, you should learn how to ponder, or you should get the proper guidance from the right masters to how to ponder over these things. Then you will get the right message. So with that, we'll conclude today's Dhamma talk. And of course, the last chanting, we'll just remember and then we'll conclude. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddha anubhavena sabba dhamma anubhavena sabba sangha anubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te sukhi bhaveyang niddukko ahang nicca ahang viya hidacha me sukhi hontu majjata chatavedino imam higammante dhamme satta hontu sukhi sada Tato parancarajyesu chakkavale sujantano sadhu 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 sukhi hontu.
Vandami Bhante.
Sadhu sadhu sukhi.
Thank you, Bhanteji.
Thank you so much, Bhanteji. Thank you.
Vandami.